Hi guys, welcome to tonight's live. Just want to get a sound check. If someone can just type in the chat box, you can hear us. I'm pretty sure everyone can. Turn up your phones as well if they're down low, and yeah, we'll try and best to keep the sound really good, but we're doing it inside it once again. We used to do it outside, but too many planes. Hope you're all doing well. We've got a few things on tonight. I'm just going to have a little bit of a chat about coral trout. That's our latest each month now. We just have one course on sale. We don't do these giant bundles anymore, the big super sales with all the courses. So we're just doing one a month now, and this month is coral trout. And before we move on, I'll just quickly tell those people who might be interested. The sale started today. It's 4 days only. It's $4.99 down to $3.99, so it's 100 off. And if you bundle it with Sound Skills 2, you get an extra 150 off, so it's 250 off between those two courses. So that's pretty bloody good value. So yeah, that's offering for the next 4 days, started today. Okay, we're going to have a little bit of a chat. A lot of people just lately have been saying that the reef fishing is very quiet, in particular the coral trout. Yeah, oh sorry guys, yeah, well I'd like to welcome everybody on board, and yeah, let us know in the comments where you're from, where you're listening, and all that sort of thing.
YouTube's going.
Everyone's going, yeah.
It looks like it's good on Instagram as well. I can't see any comments on Facebook.
Well, I'm pretty sure everyone can hear us. If anyone can't hear us, just type in there, there's no sound, because we're pretty sure it's all covered. Yeah, so what we're going to do is have a bit of a chat about... sorry mate?
I can't see any comments on Facebook Live. It looks a bit different. Wait. Maybe you look in with your...
Sorry guys, technical issue again. Happens to the young fellas too.
Yeah. Oh, you were logged in with your private channel. I went live on your private channel.
Oh, did you?
Why is there no one inside? You were still logged in with your private.
Just bear with us for a sec, guys. We're just getting in on the right channel.
Here we go.
So I'll pretty much kick it off just quickly again. You having a bit of trouble there, mate? It's not letting you in, or? Anyway, we'll talk to the guys that aren't on Facebook for a minute. Some interesting things happening over here at the moment. We'll talk about the trout and all that shortly. But we do have a tropical cyclone down near Brisbane. For those who don't know, we might not be in this country as well. It's a little bit of a rarer event for them to go that far south, but there's a reason for it, and it's also related to the reason why a lot of the fishing's gone a little bit quiet, but we'll get onto that a bit later. So yeah, some interesting things happening here at the moment, and yeah, the cyclone's probably going to impact the coast sometime between midnight tonight and 3 in the morning. So yeah, everybody's down there. Hopefully they're all ready for it. It's not going to be massive. It doesn't have a real tight eye wall, so the winds that are closest to the centre are probably not going to be much different from the ones that are 50 or 60 k's out from it. So but yeah, there's still going to be a fair bit of wind, coastal damage, and most importantly, what you've got to look out for is the rainfall afterwards. They've got the cyclone actually moving inland fairly quickly, going by the models. Yesterday they had it stalling a bit, but today they've got it sort of running back inland pretty quick. That'll be good because it'll take the tail inland as well, and all those places like Lismore and that may not get the amount that they were originally expecting. And we certainly hope not, because those guys went through a hell of a lot in 22 with the floods. Karen and I actually donated several $1,000s to that appeal. And let's just hope it doesn't happen again, because I'm sure those people don't want to go through it so soon. Yeah, it's not good. More people die in floods and bushfires than they do cyclones, because we're prepared for it. How'd you go, mate? Did you get Facebook going?
Facebook goes now.
Facebook going. All right,
we just make a quick check if everyone can hear us.
Yeah, if everyone can hear us, just let us know. Sorry guys, we just had Facebook drop out on us, and it was hard to get it back. Anyway, tonight, just quickly for the Facebook guys, we're going to talk a bit about trout, why they've gone quiet lately, along with all the other fish. A little bit about the cyclone, how those two things are interlinked with what's going on. Believe it or not, there is something in common between the fish going off the bite and the cyclone hitting Brisbane. So we'll get onto that shortly. Any other housekeeping, mate, we need to get sorted?
No, not really.
All good?
That's the topics for today.
Yeah.
Got a couple of questions, but we can assess them later.
All right. So for the guys on Facebook, just quickly, our Coral Trout course started on sale today for 4 days only. It's $100 off, $3.99 from $4.99. If you get the bundle with Sound Skills 2, it's an extra $150 off. So it's $250 over the two courses. So that's pretty good. All right. Now, just lately, a lot of people in the last few weeks, in the last month or so, have been saying the reef fishing has gone really, really quiet out, especially in the deeper waters. And what we noticed this year, we done 2 trips up to Lizard Island this year. We had to come back for some medical stuff and things like that, so we split the trip up into 2. And on our first trip up there in December, we had some absolutely amazing fishing. The water was hovering around 29.1, 29.2 most of the time, which is quite common for this time of year. It's usually 28.5 to 29.5 most years during that December period up there. So the fishing was red hot. We were filming an offshore course as well, or parts of it, and just enjoying ourselves. And the fishing was insane, fish everywhere. So we came back to get our things out of the road, and we ducked up for another 8 days, just Karen and I, before she had to go in for surgery. And it was only about a 2-week break. And when we were up there on the first trip, they announced that the La Nina weather pattern, or the La Nina current, had developed and was moving across the Pacific. And what it usually does is it sweeps down, hits Australia, and then runs down the east coast. It's a warm water current, and when it occurred last year too. It can bring marine heat waves, it can do a little bit of bleaching on the coral, all that sort of thing when it comes. So we had it for about 2.5, 3 months last year around the same time, and we've got it again this year coming in around the same time. So what happens when that hot water goes all the way down the Queensland coast here, it makes everything favourable. So if you've got any collisions or air masses that collide with that northerly current, the air becomes so moist because of that warm current. Any collisions with a cooler air mass just turns into showers and rain. And that's what we've had again this year, just heaps of it, more and more floods. Same as last year, the same kind of thing happened, and both started around about 2.5 to 3 weeks after the La Nina current arrived. Now, the cyclone, why is it so far south? Because favourable water temperatures are pushed all the way down the coast. This is not the first cyclone they've seen down in Brisbane. There's been quite a few over the years. I think the last biggest one was around 65, 70 years ago. Another good one was around about 45 or 50 odd years ago as well. And they've had a couple of smaller ones, Cat 1s and things like that. So it's been happening in the past, and it will happen into the future. It's got nothing to do with climate change. It's the La Nina current. So the La Nina hot water current puts the fish off. It just gets past that stage where they really like it, and it just gets too much. And on that second trip, even though we were mostly just swimming and things like that, we did allocate a couple of days to have a fish, and all those same marks on good tides the month before had all gone, and it was just everywhere. Everywhere was just barren, all the open water stuff, all the reds, all the trout. It didn't really bother us because the little bit of fishing content we did need, I just raced into a few wonkies and got a couple of nice big nannies. But as far as all the deeper offshore fish go, they had all moved out wide by then. Mate of mine, a commercial fisherman's up there, he said to me just before we went back up that it just went barren all of a sudden. So that's what happened, and the water reached 32.6, which is incredibly high for our offshore waters this time of year. So that's why a lot of our reef fish go off when we get these really hot summers. So don't think you're doing anything wrong or there's no fish left on your spots. They will move and the best thing about it is they'll come back. So we just got to wait. The La Nina currents haven't been lasting that long. Like I said, last year was only 3 months. Hopefully they'll be the same this year. I have seen them in years gone by where they've lasted a lot longer. And then we've got the opposite pattern, which is the El Ninos, the opposite effect. We don't get moist conditions, and that's when we go into those years of drought and have poor wet seasons. So that's what's basically happening at the moment. And to the guys in Brisbane, yeah, fair enough. It's only going to be, it's probably going to hit Moreton and around a Cat 2 and then die pretty quickly because it doesn't have a tight eye wall, and so the spinning effect is going to break up a lot quicker. As soon as it hits Mount Tempest and all those higher points on Stratty and Moreton, a cyclone like this should phase out pretty quick. But of course you will get a lot of big coastal swell. Everyone living along the shorelines and low-lying areas, you use the ones that got to watch out the most. And it's not the wind, it's the surge or the rainfall afterwards. So that's really the things you really got to watch out for. When it crosses the coast, it's going to head to the northwest. It's following the trough line, and then I think it's going to peel to the west a lot more after that. So that's what they do. They follow the trough lines because you have an air mass on either side traveling in the opposite directions that keep these things spinning. So, oh yeah, any questions, guys? Just type them in the chat if you're not sure about something to do with cyclones or trout.
Slowly getting full, yeah. It would be interesting to see who's down there actually.
Yeah, is anyone down in Brizzy? What's going on at the moment? I imagine you might start seeing gales on the coast there in a couple of hours' time. I suspect you will. Like I say, it's a pretty big spread out cyclone with no tight eye wall, so yeah, it will break down pretty quick. But you should be getting gales there, I would say, at least in the next couple of hours or 3 hours or so.
Someone said be careful, Ryan, the climate change cult will silence you if you point out real facts.
Don't we know it?
And someone also said the fishing was very quiet last weekend and sharks were prevalent.
Yeah, sharks are really bad in the warmer months as well. Well, they're bad all year round. We know that. I'm not going to talk about the sharks too much tonight.
But a friend bagged out on trout before 9:30 a.m.
Sorry, mate.
But a friend bagged out on trout before 9:30 a.m.
Oh well, it's good. It's good. Someone's catching a couple. I mean, it's not going to be dead absolutely everywhere. Someone will run into a few little pockets when you fluke the bite and all that sort of thing. But yeah, overall, it's gone pretty quiet. It's not just the trout. It's the reds and that too. So
it would be actually good to have a few options, which.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, guys. Also, our coral trout course works very well for a lot of other reef species because it's the areas that trout kind of inhabit. Many other species wind up there as well. So yeah, it's a good all-round generic trout course. So you can head to our website and have a look at the reviews. Got some very experienced trout fishermen on there already, and they've got quite a lot out of the course, and yeah, improving their catches. So what else has been happening up here in the north? Of course, we've just had our Barra launch, which finished last month. It's good to see the barramundi is starting to come back into some of the rivers now after the floods. My brother had yesterday had a crack a day. He got 25 barra before lunchtime and left them biting, and released most of them, of course. Kept a few little ones. So it's good to see that they're coming back into their pockets in the rivers already after the flood waters. So like I mentioned, if you were on their last live, you've just got to put up with it for a little while, and then hopefully we'll be rewarded with a really good year on the barra. And it's not just the barras, you know, getting the rivers flushed and all that. It's great for the bait fish. That's the good thing, and of course it brings the things like fingermark, and they follow the herring schools back into the estuaries and all that sort of thing from the outside. So it benefits everything in the long run, and it's good that we're getting some really good wet seasons. It's just a shame that yeah, you know, a lot of people are getting pretty screwed up by it as far as flooding goes and all that sort of thing too. So there's good and bad with everything. So here we go, mate. Any questions there?
When you're still with Barra, just it's been from the beginning. Someone to ask if any tips for Barra jigs, and also someone best lures for Barra. Maybe you can combine this.
Oh, okay, yeah. The best lures for barras and jacks. Oh, gee, jacks will take plastics and
or like any tips
small
for Barra jacks in general.
Yeah. of course our courses have got all the good tips in it for the barra, but I think one of my tips last time was just be patient and wait for these fish to come back on, which they are. But a good tip for barra.
Where to start?
Sorry?
Where to start?
Or where to start?
Yeah.
Well, probably down towards the mouth at the moment is going to be your better area, and because up the top at the moment there'll be a lot of smaller swampies and that getting around. But for the good oceanic fish and that coming back in, you know, the lower reaches at this particular point, and probably after the next set of tides, you'll probably find a lot of the better river fish will be back up in the upper reaches as well. Providing we don't get any more flood rain, but it's not looking like that up here. We're pretty good up in North Queensland at the moment. There's some stunning weather, and that's what happens with these cyclones. If you're on the northern side of the cyclone or in the northwestern quadrant, you might be only 100 k's from it, and you'll barely have 20 to 30 knots. You could be 200 to 300 k's south of it, and you'll be getting 100, 140 k's an hour, whatever. If it's a Cat 2, of course. And our bigger cyclones, get well over 200 k's an hour. But so if you ever get stuck at sea, hopefully you won't be silly enough to be out there in a cyclone, but if you ever get stuck at sea and you've got reception and you know which way the cyclone's moving, always head to the northwestern quadrant of it, away from it that way, because that's where your less weather is going to be. So if this thing's supposed to cross Moreton Island, it's funny, you know, every single model over the last few days, even though it's drooping and carrying on out wide, they all have it coming up and going directly over the gutter bar at Moreton Island. So he's obviously a very thirsty cyclone, calling him for a drink. But we've got a lot of friends on Moreton. We got married over there, and we love the place. So we hope that it doesn't change too much over there. A lot of big trees and that haven't seen these kind of winds for a long time. So that's one thing I'd be very careful with over there. All that area at the back of the resort, and that has a lot of big timber, and a lot of it's kind of embedded in sand a bit too. So that's probably the most thing I'd be concerned about, leaving your car near any trees on Moreton Island, that's for sure, and Stratty as well. So anyway, time will tell. Around midnight tonight or till 3 in the morning it's going to hit the coast, and of course it's expected to just weaken to a low quickly, and then the rain starts. Right, any more questions on there, mate?
Someone said, going to the Swains Reef next month, any tips, bait or lures better?
With trout, of course bait is very good, you know, the smelly baits, your mullet, your pillies, all that sort of stuff is very good. Tuna is a very good bait, but sometimes out there you'll get times when the trout and that go a little bit slow, even in places like the Swains. It can happen. But what we do then is we switch over to slow jigs and vibes, or our sinking stick baits, the pillager, and that gets them, you can tease them into a bit of a bite, and that's when lures can be better than bait. I mean, I know bait is better than lures in a lot of situations, but there are times when lures can do things to fish that your bait's not achieving. So always take a bit of both with you. If you're not into jigging, get into it. You'll be surprised how you can turn trout on that aren't chewing. That's for sure. You've seen that with Stephen, haven't you?
Oh yes. Not just once.
Not just once, no. So it does work. So if you're not into luring for trout, honestly, get into it. It's great. It's fantastic. Good fun. What else we got there, mate?
How long do the warm currents typically last?
How long does the La Nina current last? That will depend. Last year was around 3 months. This year it's still going, and it came in about a month and a half, maybe a little bit more ago. So time will tell, really, I suppose. We just got to wait and see, and hopefully, yeah, it won't be too long, and we can get back to a bit of normality and no floods in April, because we're planning a trip to Hinchinbrook in April. Finally, our February trip was cancelled with the big rain event. So we're going to head down and have a crack in April now instead. So fingers crossed we won't get any more systems during that time. So Hinchy's just starting to come good too, I believe, for all you barra fishermen that are watching too. So it's starting to clean up, and some of the fish are wandering back into the traditional areas. Okay. Also last night we done a barra talk at Tackle World in Cairns here. It was a great night for all their members. We also had Mick Hassett from Mick's Gone Fishing. He come in and gave a good talk on some of the new leaders that are available on the market now, and some of the outfits he uses and why you should use different styles of outfits and different weights, rods and reels and line, all that sort of stuff. So he basically breaks it all down for you, how you should be choosing all your different outfits. So that was quite interesting too. So it was a good night there at Tackle World, and yeah, might start doing a few more of those things into the future. We'll see. Any more questions there, mate?
Someone said, I think it was early to the cyclone topic again, the Gold Coast and northern New South Wales as well as the southern islands of the bay have copped a bit. Yeah,
like I said before, south of the cyclone you're going to get it, whereas you can be just north of it. Like if it crosses at Redcliffe, you know, people up at you know, Cabilchaway and Caloundra, they'll still get a bit of wind, but it'll be southwesterly, and then it'll swing around to the west as it crosses the coast. But south of the cyclone, or just southwest of it where it touches the coast, that will be where your strongest winds are, and that will apply down to 200 k's or more with this system. Some systems, the bigger ones, you know, up to 500-600 k south can be horrible weather as well, but just to the north it can be beautiful. So they're funny old things how they work in this hemisphere, and it's a bit the opposite in the northern hemisphere. So yeah, it's a little bit different how things spin in the different hemispheres. Right, okay, any other questions there, mate? Well,
someone said heaps of queenfish this morning at the mouth of the
Horton River.
Oh, Horton River this morning. Some nice barra too. Queenies love the scale blazer.
The scale blazers, yeah, that's our scale blazer. That's the one we use for the barra. Oh, it's great for everything. It's a really red hot barra lure. We use it in the shallow water areas, chasing barra, but everything eats it. But just on that point, it's good to see that there's barras in the mouth of the Horton and queenies coming into the mouth of the Horton again, because the water is starting to clear up. So that's what I said before. At this particular set of tides, probably closer to the mouth is going to be your best bet. And then start wandering up the rivers a bit more on the next set of tides. All right, any more questions there, mate?
Do you fish the Murray for cod?
Do I fish the Murray for cod?
Murray for cod, yeah.
No, I am not a Murray cod specialist because I don't live down there. I've been down to Victoria a few times. My only attempt at catching Murray cod was with a good mate of mine, and there was a bunch of us. They used to all come up and do barra charters with me, and we went down there and we went out to Echuca. Found a nice little spot on the bank out there, and me mate, my best mate at the time, unfortunately he's passed away now, Bry, he was a wine exporter, so we'd be on all the good gear, and we got that drunk that night we didn't do any fishing. So and we ate King Island rib fillet, and I think one of the boys caught a cod about that big. So that was my introduction to cod fishing. So it's it was a boys' trip, unfortunately. And when we were wandering around during the night, we didn't realise the next morning that all around the campsite and everywhere there was tiger snake tracks. So we could have been walking past bloody snakes and didn't even know it during the night. But anyway, it was a good time. That's what we do when the boys get together. But yeah, mate, no, not a Murray cod specialist at all. I imagine they'd be pretty easy to work out. I reckon I could go and give it a serious crack straight up, but yeah, there's plenty of guys down there that know a lot about them.
You've done Saratoga.
Yeah, well, Saratoga was another species that I'd never really had much of a chance to run into. And this year I got the opportunity to head up onto the tablelands there with Kim Anderson. Kim runs Kim Anderson Sports Fishing. He does a lot of work in the rivers around Cairns and that here, and for saltwater and freshwater barras, and he also does the streams, jungle perch. So if you want all that sort of stuff, and you're coming up to Cairns and want to do a bit of that kind of thing, it does the freshwater rivers, the Mulgrave and all that too. So if you're into that sort of thing, look up Kim.
Check out the YouTube video as well. You can see your first Saratoga.
Yeah, and check out the YouTube video. It's my first ever Saratoga. I ended up getting a few that day, but it was good. I really enjoyed it. Something different. Okay, any more questions there, mate?
Just because of the Murray cod, someone said Murray cod is the best tasting fish I've ever eaten.
I don't know.
Someone said it's the largest freshwater fish. Give it a go, mate.
Yeah, I know it's the largest freshwater fish, and I certainly would give it a go one day. It's just a lot of these opportunities don't arise that often when we're travelling around the place a bit. We mostly go north a lot of the time, but yes, we will endeavour to get do a little bit more stuff to the south. That's for sure. Okay, any more questions?
Facebook asks, would you consider doing a talk at the tackle shop in Townsville?
Yeah, as far as doing these talks all the time, I used to do it years ago, but when you book something in advance and it's committed to a lot of people, when we have plans changed to go and do filming here and filming there and all this, that and the other, then all of a sudden you really need to be somewhere and you can't because you're locked into something like that. So it's not something you can just cancel and let heaps of people down. So and of course we moved a lot more online, so we stopped a lot of that thing. But yes, we certainly will consider it into the future. It's just got to be, probably we do these sort of things in our downtime part of the year. But yeah, send us an email and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. Favorite sounder unit?
My favourite sounder unit? Probably the 8412s from Garmin. They're a very good unit. So many features and interconnectivity, great pixelation. You can plug 1 kilowatt dual frequency 2D into the back. You can plug the single 1 kilowatt 2D transducers into the back, as well as have the tri-juicer, the GT51 or the 56 plugged into the 12-pin socket. So there's a 12-pin socket and there's an 8-pin socket. So if you're going to run one of the tri-juicers, that's got to go into the 12, which means you can't run a dual frequency 2D because that normally goes in there. You can run the single 1 kilowatt into the blue socket, which is 8 pins. If you do, you can actually run the tri-juicer as well as a dual frequency 1 kilowatt 2D, but it has to go through a black box then, and then it's networked into the unit. So if you want both, if you want tri-juicer and dual frequency 1 kilowatt, you will need the black box for that only. Single frequency 1 kilowatt, fine, you can still keep your tri-juicer plugged into the back of the unit too. Yeah, just brilliant gear, mate. Love Garmin. I changed over many years ago. They're the first to bring out a lot of stuff. They've got great electronics, reliable, and that's basically who I want to be affiliated with. And yeah, I've had a fantastic time with them. Great gear, can't fault it whatsoever. Okay, another question there, mate.
Give me a second. Have you ever used the NVT screens?
No, I just stick to the normal screens.
Yep. Okay, quick and easy.
Quick and easy. I don't know much about them because I don't use them. Yeah.
Do you find many wonkies closer to the reefs of Lucinda, or are they more closer to the coast?
They're everywhere. It depends where the old river tracks used to run. That's one of the biggest tricks. Some of the latest charts these days will only show you major river systems. It doesn't show you the tributaries where 80% or more of the wonkies are. There's another trick to finding them using bathymetric charts that we use to find those other areas. And even then, sometimes they'll pop up in an area that's even unrecognizable. Doesn't give away any hints whatsoever. So yeah, we do have certain little ways of finding them, and yeah, great fun, awesome. And the best thing about the ones that are enclosed, it allows the small boat angler, who normally only fishes the creeks, gives him the opportunity to actually get out and catch a nice big redfish or something, or a mackerel or cobia, and all sorts of things hang around them. But yes, they will be in the coast, and it depends where the tracks are out around the reefs as well, where those old riverbeds used to run. Because those who may not know, in the last, this is scientific information, for the last 500,000 years we have had 4 minor ice ages. and they seem to come in between 100 and 120 metres between rise and fall. So the Barrier Reef in the past has been a dead coastal limestone range basically, and when the water comes back in and ingresses again, so do all the organisms, start attaching to the limestone, your coral reefs start to grow again. So realistically the Barrier Reef has died 4 times in the last 500,000 years. So
for the people who don't know what wonky holes are.
And people who don't know what wonky holes are, they're actually underground springs that come up from those existing riverbeds, because the paleo channels still run underneath today. So you can go to a riverbed on the land today, somewhere out the back of Whoop Whoop, and if you get a shovel and you dig down into the dry riverbed, you'll start coming across water, because right down further is the paleo channel, and that still exists in all those rivers that used to run across the sorry mate, what was that? Oh yes, sorry, here Steve was just giving me a message. Yeah, and those paleo channels will follow all those existing tracks all the way out where they used to run. Even though they're filled in today and all the sea floor has covered them, there's still paleo channels underneath, and when the pressure builds up, they push through and they blow out through the surface. They will come up through different substrates better than others, and they will spread out along that river system. Sometimes there'll be quite a lot in one area, and then they'll disappear and you've got to find them again. They might be starting again another 3 or 4 miles away. Other riverbeds, they're kind of structured right along it pretty evenly. So yeah, there is differences in how we find them and how they're structured along these pathways. So we do have a course on that as well, and I think that's our next sale coming up. That might be our next one next month. I've got to check, I'm not sure. But yeah, certainly yeah, great little things, wonky holes, and I first started fishing on them many years ago. Back in the late 80s, I sort of first worked out what they were after seeing them on the sounder, and my dad was a very well-known water diviner with an exceptional rate of finding the water, and he could tell how deep it was as well and how much water you had. He was a freak. And I learned a lot about the underground system from him, all the artesians basin and how it all works, and how all these paleo channels work. So I put 2 and 2 together and run with it, and yeah, we started fishing them and had it all to myself for many years. It was great, and some really good fish on them. Okay, any more questions there, mate?
Yeah, heaps.
Any trout questions? Because we are kind of on a trout topic, but some things I won't be able to give away. But in the trout course, I just want to say that there is a little mini sounder masterclass in there, which tells you what you need to do to different kinds of beams to be able to see in structure, and also how to use other methods using down image instead of 2D as well. Even though using down image they don't stand out as much, it gives you a much better separation. So something on 2D might not look like anything's detached, but you can see where it's detached on the down image. But the thing is, you got to have the right frequencies, you got to know what you're doing basically, and yeah, it's been a big plus for that course. People are really starting to switch on. So yeah, and while we're on that subject, for people who've just joined in, our Coral Trout course is $100 off this month. It's down to $3.99. So if you bundle it with Sound Skills 2, you get an extra $150 off. So it's $250 off both those courses, which is a pretty bloody good deal. The sale started today, and it's 4 days only, and that's for you guys who have just come in. Okay.
Are you going to include forward-facing sonar in the sounder courses?
Well, we are. The reason why I haven't, I've got a little bit in the circle about live scope in there, but as far as a giant breakdown, when we were making the course, live scope was just new, and I really wanted to see where that technology was going before I made a course on it. And I've got a fair idea now. Pardon me. I don't know whether we're going to include it into Sounder 2 or we're just going to do a cheaper Sounder Skills 3. I don't know, because all these things cost us a lot of money to make. So I was tossing up putting it in Sounder Skills 2, or we may just do a third sounder course on live and 3D. all this new stuff. So yeah, but that's probably not going to be anytime soon, because I'm actually rebuilding Barra Basics. I'm adding new videos into Sounder Skills 2 as well. Quite a few different things going in there. I'm bringing some of the advanced topics that we mostly talk about in the groups. I'm going to bring that forward into the courses, and that goes for Barra Basics as well. And hopefully we'll get to refilm some of the old Barra Basic videos when we head down in April to Hinchy. So I'm looking forward to just doing a few revamps and then finishing our offshore course, so that's out of the road and done. So that's my job this year. That'll probably keep me pretty busy. But yeah, late in the year we might have a crack at doing the live scope and the 3D, and we'll make our mind up what we're doing with it as far as the course goes.
Someone said basic setting for GT56 on EcoMap for marlin fishing. Just want the top 80 meters.
Basic settings for, sorry, was it
56.
GT56 for marlin fishing?
On EcoMap for marlin fishing.
80 meters. Well, the GT56 has a high wide element, which is good for game fishing, for seeing bait fish that underneath you. It's side imaging. The lowest frequency is 455, so which is good to about 50 meters of water and still having a reasonable coverage, and then it sort of disappears slowly as you get deeper after that. Probably, and in 80, if you're in 80 meters and you want to see bait schools in 80 meters, it's probably not the, I mean, yes, it's a great transducer and it is good for game fishing, but with 350 watts of power, anything close to the bottom, you don't quite, after about 80 to 100 meters, you're not quite getting the proper fish recognition you should. So realistically, if you're into deeper water game fishing, I'd probably be looking at maybe a GT51, because you've got 260 kilohertz, and that out in that 100 meter country, you can still see really, really well, and you can see those bait fish schools out in that really deep water much easier with it. It also has a medium frequency 600 watts, which is good to about 300 meters. It'll see deeper, of course, but I'm talking good fish recognition. And that's, you know, there's no point in me telling you, oh, the GT51s are going to read in 500 meters, and you go out there and you can't see fish.
Yeah, someone said 56 won't do it, need 51.
Yeah, you need the 51 for what you're doing, mate. So it's still got a pretty wide cone, the 51. Not quite as wide as the 56, the high wide, but the medium frequency is sufficient. You've still got a good area underneath you to see bait fish, and you've got that bonus. Also, run your down imaging. Run your down imaging as well, because that sees a bit wider than your 2D, and even though your schools will show up a little bit more compressed, it's probably it's a good way to run all your units, all your side imaging across the top, 2D and down imaging across the bottom, simply because everything tells a different story and you can compare it, and we teach you all that in Sounder Skills 2. Alright, how we going, mate?
How's the fishing in Lucinda in April, or better in October, chasing barra and fingers?
Honestly, April and October, you picked it, both my two favourite months, or some of my favourite months. February to April, early May is really good. And once again, we really only get October in these days. If you get a warmer start to September, you can have some reasonable fishing in September, but pretty much, you know, as we come out of the winter, which you can still catch them in winter, they do a few different things, but realistically, yeah, October is the better month, and then we go into our 3-month closure, so which is also a great time, but we're not allowed to even look at them. So the Northern Territory can, but Queensland you can't. Queensland you can't do a lot of things.
We can use cast nets.
Oh, we can use cast nets. Yes, bonus. Pardon me. How we going there, mate?
A bit off. Well, what's the first fishing related, the worst fishing related injury you've ever experienced or witnessed? Had a mate cop a lure through the lip that a fish spat this morning. Oh,
the worst fishing related injury that I've witnessed. Well, the worst one I've had to myself was that croc that popped up in front of me on the beach in Cardwell, and my lure was stuck on a twig, and I was walking backwards and giving it a flick, and yeah, the lure came back and smacked me right there, and the hook went right in next to my nose. so I had to go and get that cut out.
Yeah.
But
if you scroll down in Instagram or Facebook, you'll find the picture.
yeah, it'll be on there somewhere.
And we posted it
Yeah,
a couple of times.
it was funny. I didn't even feel it. It felt like someone smacked me in the gob, but I could pull on the hook. Nothing mustn't have been there any nerves, because I was teasing Karen with it on the way to the hospital. I was pulling on it, trying to make her vomit. But
It's like a piercing, isn't it?
yeah, but the worst fishing related injury was probably in 1989. I think we just won the Lizard Island Black Marlin Classic, and I was working with Moody, Greg Edwards and Mick Russell on the deck, and it was a big year for us. We won lots of stuff. It was a great year and a great crew. And we had this little Japanese fella hired the whole boat to himself for a week, I think it was, staying at Lizard Island Resort. And I think it was the second day we were out. And on the game boats, not that we kill many of those big fish anymore. It's mostly all tag and release nowadays. It has been for quite some time. But we do have the big flying gaffs on board, and they're stored under the gunnels either side. And they're a gaff with a bite like this. And it's usually between half inch to 3/4 inch stainless reinforcing bars behind them, and they're a flying gaff which has a head that comes out of the handle and a big 12-15 mil rope attached to it, which goes around the post on the game boat seat. So they're sitting up there like that with the hooks facing backwards this way, and this young fella, this little Japanese fella, was so quick around the deck. Every time you'd hear the outrigger clip come out, he could be inside the saloon and he would beat us to the rods. And he came out, and we used to stack the gaff ropes across the deck in a neat manner. We didn't just have them lying all over the place, so that, you know, you could easily trip on them, especially close to the back of the boat where you're working with the fish. But he came out of the the saloon so fast this day. He's come flying out and he's tripped on the gaff ropes, and his foot has gone straight up under the coaming, and the gaff has gone right through the centre behind his toes and come out this far the other side of his foot. Anyway, we patched him up, got him back into Lizard Island. We run straight back in. He was in with the nurse there for about an hour and a half. Muddy piggybacked him up to the nurse's office, and Mick and I thought, oh great, we can have a few rumbos. That's the afternoon done. No, he came back out, and we went back out. About 3 o'clock we got out there again and done another couple of hours trolling, and he caught I think it was a 700 or 800 pounder with his foot all wrapped up, and he was just using the heel of his foot on the chair. So he was mad keen, and from one of the worst fishing injuries I've ever seen, we were back out fishing in about 4 or 5 hours. So that was pretty insane. There was another one that I didn't witness it though. There was a big fish weight on the mothership once, and the crane let go, and the meat hook come down and got the deckhand in the arm and ripped all his arm out. We came back after it happened. Anyway, that was a bit of a gory one, but I wasn't there for that one. All right.
Do you follow the bass fishing in the USA?
Do I follow the bass fishing in the USA? No. Well, I see the odd bit of stuff from Carl Jochimson over there. Yeah, he's gone over there. He's been over there a number of years now. He's done very, very well on the circuit, and hats off to him. He's followed his dreams and really done a good thing, especially representing the Aussies in there. But I don't really follow it as such. I'm not really. I spend a fair bit of time with social media, as in our study groups and this, that and the other. I'm not really that much of a social person personally. I don't really use my personal profile for anything, just keeping in contact with mates and things. That's why I don't, after these lives guys, I get lots of friend requests. I stopped accepting friend requests a long time ago. Don't take it to heart. It's simply because so many of them are actually scams. And if you click on it or you accept them, then all of a sudden they somehow get access to you and they start spamming other people. So that's why I don't I've actually had some mates who have passed away in the past, and I get friend requests from their old profiles that are still up. That's how sad these hackers are, I tell you. So yeah guys, that's pretty much me. I don't accept any friend requests these days. If you want to follow us and what we're doing, just yeah, like and subscribe to Ryan Moody Fishing. That's where you'll find us.
It's basically all you do in your private life is also on your public profile, isn't it?
Well, pretty much, yeah, 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 exactly. So everything's on RMF.
It's not a big difference anyway.
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah.
Went for a sound along a coastal creek and rocks and found no berra on outgoing tide this arbor. Do they push deeper?
It's a bit hard to say, mate, without seeing the conditions at the time and where you actually are. So maybe they're just not in that region at the moment. Generally, they won't push out deeper unless the tide goes out.
I'm not sure if it was the same guy with we had a question for Lucinda. I don't think so. No, I don't know where it is. Should I fish the northern side of the reef in incoming tide or outgoing tide? The northern side.
That totally depends on which way the currents are running. Our predominant current runs north-south through the reefs, but when the currents hit reefs, this is all in coral trout actually. We have a big discussion on this. The currents will actually bounce off reefs, shoot this way, that way. It's like a pinball trying to go through the pinball machine. So the currents can change from one tide to the next in intensity. You can be out in the open in between two reefs on massive tides and not get any run at all. You can be out in those same kind of locations on neap tides and it's running really bad. There is no consistency to understanding current properly on reefs. How we get people to understand it's in the course. So yeah, it's got nothing to do with northern, southern, eastern or western sides. It's what's happening at that reef at the time and where you need to be in relation to the strength of current and the side of the reef with that current. And that's all in the Coral Trout course. And for those who might have just tuned in, it's on sale, started today, 4 days only, $100 off, $3.99, and if you bundle it with Sound Skills too, it's an extra $150 off, so it's $250 off both courses. 4 days only, starts today. Okay, more questions, mate?
Going out to the beach tomorrow at Newcastle, what should I use?
You're going out to the beach in Newcastle tomorrow?
Yeah.
What should you use?
Yeah.
An umbrella. No, sorry, mate. I imagine you're going to be seeing a little bit of weather down that far from the tail of the cyclone. Maybe a kite. Try some kite fishing. That'll work very well. Mate, I'm not really a southern fisherman, although I do understand a lot of the demersal species, even between north and south. They're very similar in their habits, and that's proof in our finger mark course. A lot of guys around the country are using that to catch all kinds of demersal forages because they all have same and similar habitats. So, and do similar things. Especially pink snapper and finger mark are so closely, you would think they were brothers and sisters the way they carry on in a lot of the things that they do. And so do a lot of other forages.
It also really depends what he's after, I guess.
Yeah, and also depends what you're chasing off the beach down there, mate. But yeah, I would imagine Newcastle would be seeing a little bit of ugly stuff, that's for sure. Probably not a good day, mate, maybe. We'll see.
Do you use any Aussie-made fishing gear?
Do I use any Aussie-made fishing gear?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, custom rods. Yeah, well, let's face it, most of it comes from overseas because it can't be manufactured here unless it's poisonous prices, and that's just how it is, unfortunately. It's where manufacturing's gone in Australia. So most of our stuff does come from overseas, but probably the most common thing would be my custom rods, yeah, all made by Ronnie Farron, Salty Dog custom rods. So all my reels and that, they all come from overseas. Lures, most lures and plastics all come from overseas. There's a few Australian guys in the market, of course, and kudos to them to be able to remain in that market, which is a good thing to see. But we need to take this country back and get some bloody manufacturing and stuff happening again. It's in a real shit show at the moment.
Well, you use lots of the jig sticks in our YouTube videos. Some people would. Oh yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, we do use a lot of those custom rods in the YouTube videos for jigging and casting and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, you can check them out over there, or give Ronnie a call if you're after a custom rod and he's in Townsville. Salty Dog Custom Rods. Lures or bait for coral trout on the reef?
I think we touched on that a little bit before, but with the, well, that was early on in the piece, so people might not have tuned in by then. Lures or bait for coral trout on the reef? Well, naturally, bait is very good. Smelly baits, you know, your oily tunas, your pillies, your mullet, very, very good baits, of course. And but there are times where, you know, they do go off the chew out there for certain reasons. A lot of it's current related. But when they're like that, or it's a bad part of the moon too, when it is like that, that's when we do change over to lures, because when they're not taking bait, you can actually, with slow pitch jigs, sinking stick baits, vibes, all work really well, and you can tease them and instigate them into coming on the bite, whereas you'll still sit there with your bait and catch nothing. But that doesn't happen all the time, of course. Generally, bait fishing's pretty good most of the time out there, and you just got to, well, the thing is too, you can't get out there all the time on the exceptional tides. Sometimes you can only get out there on the, you know, after the moon, before the neaps, and sometimes you can only get out there on northerly winds or northwesterly or westerly winds, and that all shuts the reef down as well. So we can't always get out there on prime periods, so everyone just needs to understand that, you know, it's not always a pot of gold. Sometimes the pot's empty. And that happens to everybody, doesn't matter how good you are. But the more experience you get, like anything, you can notice some of these changes happening and know the quick fix to try and get them to bite. Like I mentioned, if they go off the bite on bait, try the lures. Any questions there, mate?
Same guy said, like, well, if you go for live bait, do you go for live bait, and what live bait would you use?
At the reef,
yeah,
for trout, liveys. If you can get the small fusiliers, they're good. If you use those really big fusiliers, you might only catch blue spots and cod, which are generally pretty prone to ciguatera. If you're going to take liveys out and you've got a boat that's capable of going into an estuary or the harbour nearby, I would be seriously trying to catch liveys before you go. There are other ways on the way out. If you see, you know, birds diving, the larger birds, you can catch palacas, small pelagics like yaccas, and they also have pillies in amongst them in the yakka schools as well. We do get beautiful big pillies up here, and if you catch them, they're not going to stay alive. The yaccas will stay alive, but the pillies won't. But cut those pillies in half. They're the biggest, best, red, juiciest, oily flesh you'll ever see. Much better than the pillies you get in the packets from WA. And the pillies we catch over here, we've actually caught them up to around this sort of size. They're massive. They look just like the WA pilly. But yeah, they're a little bit greener, but they're exceptional oily flesh. And you need the bait jigs for those. And you'll see sometimes if it's a calm day, you'll see the rippling on the surface, and other days you'll see the gannets diving. So you just got to head over and quickly drop the bait jig down as soon as they come through on the sounder, and yeah, try and fill up.
Do you fish in Morris Creek? Because I go there and don't get much.
Do I fish in Morris's Creek? I used to fish there all the time when I had my charter business back in Townsville, and yeah, it was exceptional place. We've done very well down there, and I know someone who went down there just recently and done very well this week, because the barrows are all starting to come back in. It's just like any system, mate. You can go there on bad days, and it's a struggle, and that can happen to everybody. You get barometer that moves more than it's 3 points each day with the tides. If it goes outside that, it can shut fish down in the shallows easily. It's mostly something that happens in the shallows. Any 15 metres and more, it doesn't really bother the fish whatsoever. It mostly bothers our shallow water fish. So an unsteady barometer or a fluctuating barometer is no good for inshore fishing up here. I don't know what it's like in the cooler climates. I don't have enough experience in super cold water to see if it does a similar thing, but I'm kind of guessing it does.
What local Cairns fishers you look up to?
What local Cairns
fishers
that I look up to.
Yeah.
I know a lot of them. Probably back in the old days, I guess. A lot of the guys that are, retired and gone now too. Old Wood, he was Woodnut. He was one of the early marlin fishermen. Brizaka. There's heaps of guys in the game fishing up here that have been doing it for a very long time, or retired now, of course, but very well known. People like Jack Erskine, stalwarts in the tackle industry. Those sort of guys done all their hard yards in the early days, and they brought basically tackle and fishing to the forefront up here, and it's gone from there. But yeah, I know lots of guys in Cairns who enjoy their fishing and well known, some of the charter guys and all that, but probably looked up to some of those guys I just mentioned before back in my younger days. Yeah.
Someone said done the Barra Basic tours but still struggling around the local area, Northern Beaches, Moon Creek, Trinity, Kiwara, etc. Would it just be the lack of tides this week?
I don't know how long you've been in the course, mate, but it's if you're going to be out on the headlands, you'd be better off on much larger tides. That's for sure. This probably wouldn't have been a very good week out on the headlands. So, and if you've got any questions, if you are struggling, that's what we've got the study group for. So if anybody, is having a hard time, after you do the course though, put it into practice. Some things are not going to work straight away. Some guys do. Some guys go out and catch meteries straight away. Other people will struggle for a while. It depends on your area, what's happening, what sort of days you've gone out on, and how that all pans out. And sometimes people will spin their wheels. They'll get in the course, they'll do the whole thing through module 3, 4, 5, which is shallow flats, headlands, creek rock bars, Z-poles, ledges and snags, and then they'll get into the advanced section and they'll do all that, which is where we catch big barra out in the open and all these kind of different areas, and then they'll go and try and put it all into practice at once, and we call that spinning wheels. So if you do that, you're going to chase your tail for a bit. You really need to focus on the tides that you've gone out on, go back to the course, study that particular part again, go out and put it into practice. So, and I did mention just before earlier too, you might not have been in then, I'm actually revamping Barra Basics this year. I've just finished module 1. I've just got to record it. So there'll be all new concept videos, because we're going to bring a lot of the advanced stuff we kept for in the webinars and other parts. We're going to bring them forward into the course. So yeah, it's going to be a few changes to Barra Basics and demo videos as well. 'Cause that was our first ever course we filmed 11 years ago. So now we want to add drone perspectives and just do some of it that little bit better again, and just give it a bit of a revamp. So yeah, mate, that'll all be happening, and it'll just pop up in the course, and we'll just send everybody an email as these things get added.
When are you doing another mud crab course new to the game? We already have done.
We've done a mud crab course, mate. We've done it last year. We done two and a half courses last year. It was a massive year. These things take a long time to make. So it's had its first. When did we launch mud crabs? May. April? May?
No. Mud crabs was later in the year. April we went.
Oh, that's right. We were filming it then. Yeah.
It was whole filming.
Yeah.
April, May.
No, mate. So we've got a mud crab course there. You can.
Of the year.
Yeah, plenty of reviews on it. Yeah, we've received some really great testimonials from experienced crabbers, and yeah. It's great.
Moody crabbing.
I don't crab as much these days, but I've done a lot of crabbing back in the old days. And it's just like any fishing. You work out a whole bunch of strategies through time on the water, noticing where the crabs are, when and why, and the kind of habitats that they like to hang out in, both when the tide's moving and when the tide's not.
Is forward-facing sonar just another fishing tool or potentially bad for fishing? I think we had that earlier.
Is forward-facing sonar
just another fishing tool or potentially bad for fishing?
I don't think it's potentially bad for forward-facing sonar. I don't think it's potentially bad for fishing. because you still have to get the fish to bite. All it's doing is allowing you to see when you've got a fish following your lure. And yeah, so you can change it up a little bit if he's not biting and all that sort of thing. So I don't think you're going to fish the river out entirely. I think it's going to be mostly you're going to be able to pick where maybe a couple of bigger fish are in that school, and it'll allow you to work in towards that area to target those bigger fish if you're after bigger fish. If you're after schoolies and you want to take a couple home for a feed, well, you'll target them because you'll see them on the sonar and you'll see the different sizes as well. I don't think it's such a bad thing. I know there's a lot of stuff out there, you know, people don't like it in tournaments, which is probably fair enough, of course. I think tournaments probably have to be split up into either forward-facing sonar or not. So that's probably what they need to do as far as that goes, because there's seems to be a lot of conflict around the country regarding that. So yeah, but it's not going to fish out the rivers, mate, that's for sure. Yeah, it's a great observational tool.
Sorry.
Gesundheit. I got that right, didn't I?
Yeah. Do you think the barra down here on the Gold Coast will fire up after the cyclone?
Will the barra on the Gold Coast fire up after the cyclone?
Yeah.
It all depends what happens after the cyclone, mate. If you get massive flooding and all your waterways are shot for a while, you know, barras do have to go through osmoregulation process first. We talked a little about that last night at Tackle World in Cairns about what they do after the floods and osmoregulation. It takes a period of about 5 days. I mean, I know people will say, oh, you just grab a barra out of the salt, chuck it in the fresh, it'll survive, and the opposite way. Yeah, it will, but naturally, when the fish are in the wild, they don't want to go from one extreme to the other straight away, like you throwing it from salt to fresh or fresh to salt. They want to regulate it. So they go into certain areas and pockets where the salt and fresh are mingling pretty much, and their body slowly gets used to providing them the right amount of salt it needs to head up into those environments. So that's what it does. It's all happens down in the gill area, in the bottom of the gills is where they do the osmoregulation. So yeah, that's how that works. And then after that, they get used to it, and a lot of the river fish will move back into the estuaries and start their feeding again. They're not, when they do go through osmoregulation, it's a bit like them when they're sitting low and slow. They're not deliberately feeding or nothing. You could get bites out of them if you're teasing them a bit, getting reaction bites. But generally when they're doing osmoregulation, they're not that interested in feeding. But afterwards they will.
Going to Corumba next week, any tips for chasing barra up there?
Up in Corumba, chasing barras up there, this time of year, I think they're pretty free of any floodwaters up there. I don't think they've had a great deal. So the rivers should be pretty settled, mate. So I don't think you have to worry about fresh influence and changing tactics and finding fish disappearing for a while and all that sort of thing. I would just, a lot of the good tips for up there in my course, and I just can't give them away. Yeah, be consistent. Sorry. Yeah, just work the river over and find where the fish are first. That's the first thing you got to do, because they're not going to be in every single part of the river. That's one thing the barras will do. You'll find them in places here and places there, and you'll find those regions where they are. There'll be a series of snags where they'll all have fish on them. Then the next couple of bends might be barren. Then you'll find somewhere else they'll all be again. So if anything, a good tip is to spend a day looking around. Don't just go to any old snag and start fishing, and if you can't see anything on your sounder, you might not see anything on the first 10 snags and you think, oh gee, you know, let's just give it a go anyway. No, keep driving and keep looking. That's what you got to do, because there's no point in guessing what you're fishing on. Know what you're fishing on, basically. Okay.
I think we're pretty much too many questions left. Only that one here. I've been fishing Horton River with a wire each side in fresh. Where would barra be?
You're fishing the Horton River
with a wire?
With a wire?
Like WE IR.
Oh, Weir, Horton Weir.
Oh,
Bloody Germans.
really good stuff.
The Horton Weir. Yeah, well, at the moment, I would imagine below the weir you'll have a lot of the river fish that are well and truly past their osmoregulation, and they'll head up to those kind of areas to get any bait fish that come out of the fresh, because while the rivers are in flood, a lot of the traditional bait fish in the rivers are out at sea. They're out. So fish that do remain in, all the oceanic barrows will be out as well. But the river fish that have gotten used to the fresh will then push upstream, because one of the only food sources is going to be what's coming out of the fresh over the wall of these barrages. You know, things like your different shrimps and mud cod and gudgeon, all these kind of things. They'll all get washed out of the billabongs, and eventually a lot of them will just die off in the salt. But there are fish waiting in those entrapment areas for those things coming over, because that's pretty much all they've got to eat for a while. So yeah, mate, yeah, just hit the underneath the Horton Weir at the moment. Should be pretty good, I'd imagine. We used to fish there years ago when we were young fellas. We used to drive down from Townsville and give it a go. It was good. So that's it for the questions.
I said, yeah, I've noticed the only way I can get them is with lure at top. What, where, why, wow.
Karen, we need you back. Well, yeah, try the top water, try everything in around the weirs. Plastics are great. Of course, forget vibes, they're more of a deeper thing. You want more of your shallow sort of stuff around the bottom of the weirs. So, yeah, give all that shallow divers, plastics, paddle tails, curly tails, all those sort of things will be the go. And usually lighter weight jig heads, because you don't want them sinking down and getting stuck in the structure, because usually below most weirs there's a lot of structure and rubbish. So, yeah, you don't want heavy jig heads.
Yep, I live here. Thanks for that, mate.
No worries, mate. Too easy.
Where best land-based fishing spot in Noosa, do you think?
Land-based fishing spot in Noosa. Yeah, not been there a few times, but haven't done bucket loads of fishing down there. But I think if you want to chase the barras down there, it's mostly nighttime fishing, because you get so much clean water in that system unless you go right up the very top there in the lake and play around the channels and pressure points up there. That would be your best bet if you're going to chase barra. Probably go look up in there, or if you're in the main river itself, where nighttime's going to be your best bet. And as far as land-based goes, yeah, I've got a land-based module in Barra Basics, and it shows you the kind of things to look for, but yeah, I can't sort of go too much into that.
Ron Harvey says, hi Moody.
G'day mate, how are you?
I fish us. I predominantly fish the Murray. Will your course be relevant to that environment?
Murray is.
Yeah, Murray, yeah.
Is that the Murray River up here in near Tully, or the one down south?
And which course?
Because some people, there are some parts of Barra Basics that would work on Murray cod. There'll be some tactics in there that will certainly work on Murray cod in the Murray River. But if you're talking about the Murray River up near Tully here, yes, of course, there's all the scenarios in Barra Basics happen everywhere you catch barra, pretty much. Any more questions there, bud?
He said down south.
Oh, Murray River down south, yeah. There is parts in Barra Basics that will help you with Murray cod, but yeah, a lot of it's designed particularly for saltwater barramundi. But yeah, mate, who knows? We might start bringing on a few other specialists, and it's crossed our mind to start bringing on some affiliates, because my specialty is going to end sooner or later. So yeah, we might be going to bring on some professionals who really know their stuff about Murray cod. Maybe let us know who you think might be someone you might want to teach, learn from. So we might approach them when the time's ready.
Where on the Bommy would I start looking for trout?
Well, funnily enough, well, there is parts of Bommies. Once again, that's something that probably I don't want to really divulge too much on, but don't think too much about bommies. There are other places out there where bommies are the ones that get hit all the time, especially visible ones. So honestly, there are other habitats to catch trout in, and we teach you how to find them using your sounders. And they're not obvious, and the fish are quite often not obvious either. They're actually hiding in the bottom, and they're taken up inside the 2D cone, and that's the problem. If you're using wide beam angles in some of this country, you're hiding too many fish, and you need to make adjustments. So but yeah, mate, like I say, the course has so many different areas, and that's what a lot of the really experienced guys have been saying. Oh shit, yeah, I've been catching trout for years, but I've only been fishing on bommies. I didn't realise all this other stuff existed and how I can find it. So, and a lot of this other stuff that you may not know about, also lots of other fishermen don't know about it, and it's just driven past. So when you do find these kind of areas, they're generally fished pretty well. So yeah, a lot of stuff out there just doesn't get looked at.
What's the best barramundi fishing area?
Best barramundi fishing area? Oh mate, of course the Northern Territory and Northern WA's, it's more of the remote areas, it's fantastic of course. You know, you got Weeper and all those rivers up from Karumba. Mate, it's hard to say. I mean, Hinchy's good at, especially when it's firing, the Burdekin. Then we got the Fitzroy down there. I don't think there is such a thing as the best barramundi location. So if you're keen barra fisherman, try them all, mate. Go and, you know, have a holiday one year up the Territory. Just keep trying different places. That's what it's all about. Getting out and seeing all these areas, and you know, the same kind of scenarios. Fish all very similar. Some areas will have large tides, some areas will have much more medium tides. So you put different things into practice. Parts of our course, a lot of the advanced section is for places that have very large tides, because it's all about where fish are driven to, and they're very hard to find for most people. So yeah, each area is different, mate. We've got some fantastic barra fishing throughout the entire country.
How to get away from sharks, or what to do? Is there a trick what to do against sharks when fishing for like trout species or stuff like that?
Can you get away from sharks when you're fishing
like, can you do something?
Can we do something?
About it on the spot, like spook them, or?
Oh, you can always, you know, like we did in the old days. But I would say everything's a bit sensitive these days. Yeah, the sharks are, I've actually been keeping away from the shark topic a bit lately because I'm really busy with other stuff, and this politics is so freaking distracting and so annoying. It pisses me off that we have to put up with this shit. And they never listen to people with experience on the ground. They only listen to these people that want to drive agendas. And it's all political. It just annoys the shit out of you, I tell you. And I know a lot of you guys are all pissed off about it too. At the moment, they want to do a study on the shark problem. A 2-year study. There's some meetings on up and down the coast very shortly about it. We don't have 2 years. The bull shark problem and the pig eyes and all that, there's a few different whale species that are blown out of proportion through protection measures introduced 14 years ago. It's got to the point now where it's just insane. We're just losing so many fish. From what I understand, these meetings are all about mitigation. They want to come up with ways where we don't interact with the sharks. That's not going to happen. It needs to be a commercialised cull. Simple as that. Kept at a sustainable level like it used to be. So coming up with all this crap like don't swim in the mornings or afternoons after dark like you see they put up on their Facebook pages, shark deterrent devices, I mean, that costs a lot of money. You drop them down, and what happens when all the lines get tangled around them? And realistically, you know, do you have to have them close to your bait all the time? What happens if they get bitten off? I don't think there's any way that we can live with sharks unless we control their numbers. And that's simple, plain and simple. There's no point in pussyfooting around trying to come up with ways to keep sharks at bay in a different way. So Yeah, like we're getting back to the original question. Sorry, I get distracted with the shark topic, and I shouldn't have started on it. It's very toxic. But yeah, pretty much the deeper you are, the more trouble you're going to have with sharks. So on days when you are having trouble, think about moving up to the shallows and look for some shallow water habitats. There are some great shallow water habitats. And that's in the course as well, of course. We teach you how to fish every section of the reef, from top water on the flats and all different parts of the slope, and where the various habitats are in all these different places. Plus open water away from the reefs, we have a few habitats there as well. And for those guys who might just tune in towards the end, we're having our coral trout launch. Starts today, it's on special, 100 off. You get an extra 150 off as well if you bundle it with Sound Skills too. So 250 off between both courses, 4 days only. Okay, yeah, I think we answered that question, didn't we? Just move a bit shallower, guys. That's all you can do with sharks, is just try and fish the shallows on those bad days. Go to your traditional areas in the deep to start with, and if you lose the first fish to a shark, move. Don't pull up another 20 heads, whatever you do, because it's not going to change.
Any with snapper. Hi sir, I'm manufacturer. Do you want to produce fishing jersey? FM Sportswears.
No thanks mate, we've got our own fishing jerseys.
What do you think of queenfish?
Queenies? Oh, great fun. They used to be a good fun fish while we were barra fishing, the big ones of course. The little ones were a nuisance, taking liveys and things like that and lures all the time. But when you get those big 10 kilo queenies, they're a bunch of fun. They jump and carry on, and yeah, didn't mind getting interrupted every now and then with one of those when we were chasing barra. But as far as eating qualities go, if you eat them fresh, you bleed them straight away, put them on a nice slurry, they will eat okay. But they're commonly used for namas fish, where you're using lemon juice, coconut cream and all that sort of thing, and a few other veggies and bits and pieces mixed in, and vinegar, all that sort of stuff. And that's what the lemon juice and vinegar does. It actually cooks the fish for you. And it's a very nice dish. A lot of the islanders started all that.
Any tips for catching snapper?
Any tips for catching snapper? Or do the finger mark course. It's all in there. There's so much good stuff on catching finger mark and demersals. Sorry mate, it's mostly in the course.
Maybe a lure thing that we.
Well, yeah, don't be afraid to use plastics for snapper. They are a very big plastic taker. They will definitely take plastics. They'll take slow pitch jigs as well. And it's just that same tip I said before. If your bait's not working, change over to jigs and vibes and sinking stick baits and things. Because we mentioned it about trout, it works for everything. If everything goes off the chew, try the lures, because you can work them into a bit of a frenzy for a while just by using the lures.
What's your basic setup for snapper? Like rods, reels, just a basic
setup for snappers. Well, pretty much just a 10 kilo fine. Maybe if you're offshore, 15 kilo outfit. There's no need to get 50 24 kilo outfits or anything like that. If you're fishing out past the shelves and you're catching the really large fish, probably look at maybe a 30-pound outfit, 15 kilos, or a little bit lighter on the inshore grounds, 10 kilo outfit. And it's up to you. If you're in area, snapper are not super dirty or nothing. They don't like nailing you in structure like other fish do. So if you're in fairly open sort of territory, mate, try 8 kilo, try 6 kilo, have a bit of fun, as long as you haven't got shark problems. So that's one thing to take into account. If you have got shark problems, you are going to need that heavier tackle to try and get them up that bit quicker, because they're not an easy fish to get up quick, a bit like red emperor as well. So that's the sort of thing I'd be using. And spin or overhead is entirely up to you. But if you're going to use jigs, make sure it's a jigging outfit or a rod and reel suited to jigging, with braided line, that sort of thing. And if you're going to use a bait outfit, a fiberglass rod, spin or overhead, that's entirely preferential as well. In inshore areas, we talk a lot about using monofilament for bait fishing, for stretch purposes, for some species. But out in that deeper offshore water, if you've got a fiberglass rod, braid is perfect. You can just feel so much more, and it's not too direct having the fiberglass rod with the braid running through it. So that's a good outfit. Yep, stick with your braid in deep water, that's for sure. All right.
From earlier, back to the topic from the Muricot, is Rod Mackenzie is the Muricot guru.
Rod McKinney, yep, I've heard of him, yep.
Yeah,
That's good. We'll put it out there when we get closer to doing that sort of thing. Probably won't be this year, but yeah, we will be looking at taking on some affiliates.
Yeah. Also, yes, are bull sharks good eating?
Apparently bull sharks are good eating.
Yeah?
There is a video on YouTube somewhere, someone sent it to me one day. I don't watch much YouTube, but he sent the link to me, and some guy over in the States, he cooked this bull shark around 5 feet long, and yeah, they're raving over it. And I have heard from other people too that they're actually not bad chewing. So yeah, maybe we need to get some kind of commercial industry. This shark problem is not just happening in Australia. Yeah, I'm going back to the sharks. It's also happening in the States and other places as well. Plague proportions. They were worldwide laws. Over there, the fisheries are looking at ways at the moment of bringing the commercial guys on and getting numbers back down and creating a bit of a market for them. So, whereas our guys here at the moment are looking at ways of living with them. That's got to change. So every one of these meetings have got to speak up, that's for sure. I'm not invited actually, they never invited me to any of these shark meetings. I wonder why. I'm actually glad at the moment because I'm over it.
You know too much.
Yeah, I get a bit aggressive.
What depths do you find most trout to aggregate?
That will depend on time of year. Trout will aggregate better in the summer months in deeper water, and better in the cooler months in certain shallower aspects. Yeah. But you'll still find them in both, but there's a noticeable movement there.
Yeah, which is why it's also good to now prepare and see what they are and
where
they end up, because otherwise you're just fishing on empty ground.
Well, exactly. Well, they do something quite different in winter time. When winter time's only a few months away. So now would be a good time to jump onto the trout course if you really want to understand what they do from season to season.
Do you reckon fly fishing is fun for barramundi, skinnies and brassy trevally?
Oh, for sure. Fly fishing is great fun for everything. I used to do a lot of saltwater fly years ago in my younger days. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I just don't get enough time to do it anymore. I've got a big brand new 12 weight in there I've had for a year or so. I've only used it once. But yeah, I'll certainly get back into it when we get a bit more free time. When I retire. If.
Do blue salmon hang in the same barra areas?
Yes, there are certain areas where you'll find blues, not so much hanging with them in a school, but inhabiting the same region. Yeah, definitely.
Have you gone to Mandurah before?
I haven't been to Mandurah. Done mostly Tinaroo back in the early days, the Ross River, Weirs, those impoundments down there. Peter Faust, done when it first kicked off. Since then I haven't sort of done big heaps in the impoundments. It's pretty easy. We got an impoundment module. They're fairly easy fish to understand in the impoundments, but they can still have periods where they'll get lockjaw and stuff like that as well. But yeah, it's not something I do a hell of a lot of. I really love the saltwater fish. But I just haven't had the chance to go to Mandurah, unfortunately. There's a lot of places I haven't had a chance to go to and fish and stuff. We can't be everywhere all at once in our lifetime. There's going to be places, no matter how old you get, that you'll never ever get to visit because there's just too much. But yeah, it's certainly my intention to get around a little bit more into the future and start experiencing some of the things that I've missed out on.
Only one question left. Ash fishing hunting, when are we going for a fish?
Oh, Ash, how you going, mate? Yeah, I know, I promised you I'd catch up for a fish. Life's a bit hectic, but yes, we will. I've got a few Cairns lads I'd like to catch up with, so, and some of our students too. All right.
Cool.
How we going?
Yeah, I think we just,
All good?
Yeah, all good. Maybe last note.
Yeah, just the last note for everyone. Coral Trout course on sale today, 4 days only, down to $3.99. Bundle it with Sound Skills 2 and get an extra $150 off that as well. So $250 off both of those courses. So it started today and will go for 4 days only. Alright guys, thanks for popping in. We'll have probably another live early next month with the next launch, and we'll have a bit more of a chat about what we're doing there and any other fishing related topics and questions that I can't answer. I'm sorry I can't answer some questions because we are an online fishing education business, and yeah, just some things can't be said, but I certainly like helping out people where I can. And yeah, thanks for coming along, really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys in Brisbane,
anyone has missed out on stuff can rewatch.
Yes, you can rewatch this. If you come in late and you want to rewatch it, you can. And also to everybody in Brisbane, we haven't heard from many people down in Brisbane. I wonder if things are down. A lot of power might be down. Who knows? But if you are watching down there, guys, yeah, buckle up. I mean, it's not a Cat 4 or 5. It's not going to blow your house away. But the most important thing I do want to say is, don't let your kids near the windows on the windward face. It may not be enough wind to blow in the windows, but it's the missiles from other people's properties. If you're standing in front of those windows, when something small hits it, you're going to get showered in glass. And that happened in Cyclone Alfred at Mum and Dad's place in Townsville. I was 5 at the time. I can remember sitting under the lounge room, under the dining table in the kitchen. We were all huddled in there and we were feeling the house going up and down on the cyclone bolts, shaking like a bloody, it was just insane. I still get goosebumps thinking about that. We were just wondering when we were going to take off or when the roof was going to disappear. We watched the roof across the road disappear. It went down the street and smashed into other houses, but we were watching from the leeward side of the house. So if you want to see what the winds are like, go to the leeward side of the house. And actually, in the severe cyclones on the leeward side of the house, we actually leave the windows open a little bit because it relieves some of the pressure, because that's what blows the roofs off, the pressure that gets underneath them in those large cyclones. But you certainly won't have anything to worry about with this one. But if you want to have a look, your kids want to have a look at the wind shooting past, go to the leeward side. Do not stand in front of your windows. Keep right out of those rooms entirely. So, yeah, there's just a little tip for you guys down there who might not be that experienced with these kind of things. We've lived with them all our lives, and yeah, there's just certain things you should and shouldn't do. Anyway, I hope the flooding doesn't hurt anybody. Hope everyone lives on the coast down there are not going to suffer too much, and I just hope this thing will just weaken out to a low the moment it hits the coast, which it should. Like I said earlier, it doesn't have much of an eye wall, but it's certainly a big area of circulation. So yeah, alright guys, all the best with the cyclone if you're down that way, and all people in Lismore, I hope you don't get flooded again. Let's just hope it quickly moves to the west and drags a tail with it. Thanks a lot guys, catch you in the next live, and yeah, we'll see you then. Oh.